Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my co host, Michael Hall.
What's up?
And we're also joined by a very special guest, returning guest, JP Finlay of NBC Sports Washington. JP, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have a bunch of questions to ask you, JP, because a lot of news came out today. But before we get into the news of today, I have to get your opinion on Ron Rivera's decision to go for the 2-point conversion at the end of that game against the Giants.
I liked it. I feel like for people that were surprised by that, they just haven't been paying attention to Ron. Like, he's all about, you know, look at his Instagram profile is Riverboat Ron, like his Twitter avatar. Like, he wants to win the games and is going to press the gas to do that. I thought it was the right call. Listen, if they were 4-1, maybe it's different, but as much as they're maybe competing for the NFC East, this is a growth year regardless, and just try to go win the game. Go back and watch that play too. I know there's a lot of consternation about the play call. Go look at Dontrell Inman on the right side. He's wide open. Kyle just didn't look to him.
Well, that was actually going to be my question. I didn't really have a problem with going for the 2-point conversion, but I was going to ask you about the play call itself because, in my opinion, I would have liked to see maybe like a little rub route going on. Maybe it's some type of motion pre-snap or something like that. What was your opinion on the play call?
Once I watched it again and saw how open Inman was, I felt like the call was fine. I don't know about him moving out to his left and going against the spot. I don't know. Play call. I get what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. You could have done a million different things in that scenario.
Right.
You're absolutely right about that. Now, from today, Jerron Christian looked like he was hobbling at practice and was working early on in practice and then was seen on the bike. JP, how did he look? And then what did Coach have to say?
He looked hurt. He did not look like he was – he looked like it was more than I expected. And then when Ron said afterwards that it was just a day off and they expect him back tomorrow, I was kind of surprised. So we'll see if he's back tomorrow. I mean, if he's back tomorrow, then, it was just a day off. But if not, if Cornelius Lucas is out there, you got some trouble.
Yeah. And that being said, let's keep this on the injury front. Sadiq Charles, Coach talked about earlier this week, and the 2 plays that Sadiq was on the field, he showed really well. He showed that he belonged. How long do you expect Sadiq Charles out? We had Lake Lewis on Tuesday, and he talked about he could see this being kind of a season-ending kind of injury for Sadiq. What do you think?
I don't know, but, I mean, I tell you what, I did not share the enthusiasm that Ron had from 2 plays. I was a little surprised how let me change what I'm saying. I don't know you can get too good of a judgment on anybody in 2 plays. So I think Ron was just trying to be really nice to his guy that's been hurt all year, finally gets in a game and then got hurt again. I don't know that we should be holding the Sadiq Charles parade yet. I think I don't know. It didn't look good. I think maybe the bye week buys them a little bit of time. I'm not going to say season ending because I don't know that. Maybe Lake talked to somebody I didn't. But I don't think – like if he's out through Thanksgiving, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know.
Okay. And then Ron Rivera has gotten a lot of flack this week because he talked about how he did not have a cutoff point for Dwayne Haskins. And a lot of the everyone fan base and the media are pointing out, well, Ron, you did. And today he kind of elaborated on that and said, it was a gut feeling for him. It wasn't really a cutoff point, and he'll do whatever is in the best interest of the football team. Do you buy that explanation from Ron? And if you do, can you try to explain what he's trying to say?
Yeah, I do buy it. I think there's a couple things. I think I don't think Ron cares what he says to the media, frankly. And I'm part of the media, and I kind of have just learned that he doesn't care if we think he's inconsistent. When he says he hasn't been inconsistent, he means that to his team, and that his team knows exactly what he's trying to do, and that the goal is winning games and moving things forward. And I'd argue that that is very much true. Like, the Cowboys already have players complaining about the coaching staff and all that sort of stuff. There's none of that with Washington. Like, there's not even hints of that. So I think the team is still all in on what he's doing. The Dwayne stuff, I think he just messed up by saying the cutoff point thing. And I don't know. I think what bothered him is that it's not. I believe Ron, in his mind, like in August, wasn't like, all right, week 4 is when I need to know if I've seen enough from Dwayne. Like, I don't think there was a specific time and date. But I think he reached a point where he's like, all right, I've seen enough and I'm moving on. So then when he was asked, is there a cutoff point for Kyle? I think his response was, no. Like, I didn't have it's not like I decided a month earlier that week 4 is when I'm going to bench Dwayne. And I'm not saying that Kyle gets 2 weeks and then I'm going to bench him. Like, I think what he was trying to explain is that he does it. Forgive me, fellas. I got to put a mask on. I got to go into the store here. Is that he does it by feel rather than like there's not like an arbitrary date on the calendar. And I think there's been a few episodes where Ron has just kind of misspoke. And I think there's a couple factors. I don't think the media scrutiny in Charlotte is what it is here. I mean, I think when you bench a first-round quarterback 4 games into the season, a lot of people got a lot of thoughts on that. So I kind of think that's what's going on.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I'm not defending him, but I think he kind of
You're trying
like
to, you're trying to help explain.
We cut his but we parse it, and it's our job. Like,
Right.
it's our job to go back and check his words, right? But like, he's not thinking about that,
Right.
especially in the moment. I almost wonder if that's part of why he wanted to kind of clarify some stuff today, because obviously he recognizes that there's been some inconsistent stuff, and I mean, I'd say some outright contradictions, but I think he is just trying to move the team forward in the manner he thinks it has to go.
Right. And kind of sticking with the quarterbacks, everyone obviously knows that Kyle Allen's not, hopefully will not be the starter in 2021.
But hopefully he's kind of rough.
Yeah, I mean, he's not.
I'm with you.
Yeah, but if you were GM Finlay, would you be drafting a quarterback, one of these young guys, say a Justin Fields, Trey Lance, if they're there, or would you?
Hell yeah.
Or would you be in the market for one of these younger veteran guys and maybe draft an offensive player like maybe Jamar Chase, or maybe someone to pair with Terry, or maybe Penny Sewell from Oregon, the left tackle?
It depends where they draft, obviously, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I would much rather draft a kid quarterback that's my guy of the future than have to pay Matt Stafford $30 million a year or whatever that's going to cost. And people may not agree, but I like the kid Trey Lance. I like Justin Fields. I get if there's hesitation about drafting another Ohio State kid, but I mean, I don't think that's a fair comp. Haskins started for a year. Fields will have at least 2 seasons. I don't know. Fields' athleticism is off the charts. I don't know. I mean, there's going to be questions. The hope is they get number 1 and get Lawrence, right? I don't think that's not crazy. That's a real. They're bad, and they're going to have a chance at that. So, I think, I feel like I keep almost saying the R word. I feel like Washington fans are almost divided into 2 camps, and that happens all the time. And I feel like, there's some folks that want them to go win these games, win the NFC East, and do that, and everybody else just focus on the draft already. And the Jets are god-awful, so I think they're going to pick first. But you never know, man. Funky things happen in the NFL in December.
It is 2020. You're right about that.
Right, for sure.
You're absolutely right. And before we get into the predictions for the game this weekend, JP, the Washington football team today practiced with only 5 wide receivers, and 2 of them were practice squad guys. So there is a well-known wide receiver that's very talented in the free agent market that could possibly be coming off a suspension. Do you think the Washington football team will be interested in Antonio Brown? And if they are, how much would you be willing to bet they're going to really go get him?
I don't think they're interested, and I don't think they're going to go get him at all.
Put that fire out very quickly.
But how was that? Yeah. I tell you what, though, being at practice and seeing only 5 dudes go through receiver drills was like, you like kept looking around for more guys. It was pretty staggering to see, how few people they had out there.
Right. Speaking of receivers, Antonio Gibson, I know a lot of people have been clamoring. He was a receiver at Memphis, obviously, played running back here and there. But a lot of people have been clamoring to we need wide receiver help. We need another threat opposite Terry. And they've been clamoring for Scott Turner to stick him outside or in the slot somewhere. Do you think we're going to see more of Antonio Gibson at wide receiver and, say, McKissick and Peyton Barber in the backfield? Or is he just going to stick with the plan to get Gibson those reps?
No, I heard it.
Okay.
Mike, you actually want more Peyton Barber on the field?
No, not really. I just want kind of more.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't want more Peyton Barber on the field per se, but if it leads to Gibson being wide receiver a little bit more, and obviously McKissick being the lead guy, and Peyton Barber maybe that short yardage guy like he has been, which he's averaging short yards anyway. So, but definitely less Peyton Barber, but more Gibson on the outside or at the slot to kind of balance it out on the offensive side, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it's hard, man, because I think he could get some more slot work. I don't know that he knows the offense to play the Z or something. You know what I mean? Like, they've thrown so much at that young guy, and I don't expect it. I'll tell you that much. Like, he's not in the small portions we're watching. He doesn't appear to be lining up outside or going through receiver drills or any of that. So I wouldn't expect it this weekend.
Well, let me get your opinion. Would you rather have him get all the reps at running back just to kind of see what he has and see if he's the future going forward, or would you want to split him out more and kind of see more dynamic plays and space by him?
So, I mean, that's like the whole dichotomy of what they're going through, right? Like,
yeah.
Are you developing this kid for the future, or are you just trying to play him right now because you have no wideouts? And, I mean, that's the same question of
Dwayne and Kyle.
Should Dwayne be playing?
That's true. That is true.
And if it's up to me, the plan for Gibson long-term is not to be a wideout, and I just keep him at running back. But that doesn't mean you can't be more creative with him. And, like, wideouts could run – running backs could run down the field. Like, you could send him on some seams and some wheels and, like, get him matched up with a linebacker. Like, he doesn't have to only catch dump-offs and screens because he's a running back. You can be creative. And I think Scott – I know folks are really jammed up about the spacing stuff with the receivers down the field, but, like, you can get a screen grab from just about any offense and make it look kind of bad. I don't know that Scott is the problem. I just think they lack weapons on offense. I mean, I've done this exercise a bunch. Like, you got McLaurin, and then I don't know that you have another definitive starter on every other team.
Right.
Maybe Sheriff, maybe Moses.
Yeah.
They lack. They lack.
You're right. I mean, that's the best way to put it. They lack. You're absolutely right. Now, JP, that being said, let's get your prediction for this weekend, because after that game on Sunday, I'm sitting here thinking there's no way it's possible that this team could beat the Cowboys. I thought they could beat the Giants again the second time, but the Cowboys wasn't sure. That Monday night game against Arizona, I see a very different team out of Dallas, and I walk away from that very encouraged that the Washington football team can get right against this defense. What's your prediction for the game on Sunday?
They could get right, but they could also get wrong. I mean, Kyle Allen turns it over too much for me. I need to see him not do that to believe it. I think they'll score. On my podcast, we do the 100 chips segment. I put 70 of my chips on the over because I think both teams – I mean, the Washington defense gives up big plays to everybody, and Dallas is certainly a big play offense, even with Andy Dalton. I think – I don't know. I've now had to do this twice and given 2 different predictions, so I'll give a third different one. I don't know. I think Dallas maybe. So I literally just did my NBC4 thing, and I said Washington won. So I'm going to say Dallas wins here, 30-27.
Okay. All right.
Well, you'll be right in one of them. You'll be right in one of the predictions.
I don't know, dude. I predicted a tie on my podcast. So who knows?
Now, so if let's just say
if they tie, Mitch has to give me $200. How about that?
That's a pretty good one.
There you go. I like that idea. I like that one a lot. Now, JP, hypothetically speaking, let's just say the Washington football team does pull off a victory this weekend against the Cowboys. What is the one area, the one phase of the game that the Washington football team has to win in order for them to be able to get a W?
Good question. Turnover battle. I think. Listen, man, I think we know that Kyle can move the ball in this offense. Like, I think the ball is going to move. The Dallas defense is awful. It's just if he doesn't turn it over, and if they can get Zeke to put it on the ground, pick off Dalton, however that comes about, I think whoever wins the turnover battle this weekend wins the game.
Right. And sticking up with this game on Sunday, it's been well documented that this Dallas offensive line is not what it was from a couple years ago. I think they have a couple third stringers on there as of right now.
Left tackle, too.
Yeah, left tackle, exactly. So do you see this kind of maybe setting up like a week one matchup with Philly where they were down a couple linemen, injuries here and there? And do you see this defensive line getting back to what they did in week one?
I think you certainly hope so. If it doesn't happen this weekend, I think you really got to start to wonder how big of a deal losing Matt Ioannidis was.
Yeah.
Because he was obviously your biggest interior pass rusher, maybe not your best interior D lineman overall, but pass rusher I think was. I don't know, man. They should be able to get to Andy Dalton for sure.
I'm right there with you. I do believe that they should, and we truly hope so because we saw in week one their only victory of the season when they got after the quarterback a lot. That's when they were put in the best position to win. Now, JP, to finish off this interview, this game against two quarterbacks, Andy Dalton and Kyle Allen, who has the better game?
Dalton's got way better weapons. I just don't think he's what the hell, Kyle.
That was very quick. I thought you were going to go the other way there, JP.
This is not like an old Steve Young, Troy Aikman matchup. Like this is, we're not. You know what I mean? This is not Lamar against Deshaun or something.
You're absolutely right about that, JP. All right, well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're incredibly busy, grocery store shopping, and I get your business, get your food, JP. I appreciate you taking the time out, sir.
Thanks very much, guys. That was a lot of fun. We'll do it again after the season.
Absolutely, sir. I'll talk to you.
All right. Take care, fellas.
And that was a fantastic interview with JP Finlay. Guys, let's start talking about some hypotheticals here. The Washington football team, the trade deadline is coming up very, very soon, and this team has a lot of holes on this team right now. So let's debate and let's talk about what are some possible trade scenarios or possible free agents that could be available. And then after that, guys, we're going to talk about, is the rivalry between Washington and Dallas, is that dead like everyone is saying? And then we're going to go into depth, into detail with Pro Football Focus ratings and everything in a matchup basis of the game this weekend. It's Dallas week, everybody. We have to get hyped. There's a possibility the Washington football team can win this game, and we're going to tell you why. With that being said, let's go to Reed right now. What trade scenario or free agent would you see coming into fruition for the Washington football team?
Well, there's a few, especially at the pass catcher position, whether that be tight end or wide receiver. I mean, somebody to look out for is Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills, I think, would be an excellent number 2 here. And then another name to look out for is Chris Herndon, the tight end from the Jets. He's somebody who has really just kind of fallen out of favor, and the Jets are completely starting over. He's a very talented tight end, hasn't been targeted much over the last couple of the games that he's played in, and he's somebody that I think could really improve this football team. And same with somebody like Kenny Stills, a veteran who can kind of roll the coverages away from Terry McLaurin. We know A.J. Green's out there. He's reportedly available. There's some pretty good wide receivers that are on the trade block. I just think that Kenny Stills would kind of fit that number 2 perfect role for Washington. And I trust him a little bit more than somebody like an Alshon Jeffrey, or even an AJ Green, just with the injury history. So
Right.
I could see us maybe going somewhere like that.
Yeah, and I would definitely see Anthony Harris, the safety from the Vikings. I feel like is somebody that the Washington football team should really look into and seeing how much it would cost to bring him in. Obviously, the safety position and big plays being the huge point of emphasis for this Washington defense so far. They've been a good defense, but they've been giving up some big plays, and Anthony Harris would help solidify that in the back end. And then Quentin Spain just recently got released by the Buffalo Bills, if I'm not mistaken. And he played 16 games for them last season, and the year before that, he was on the Tennessee Titans and started 16 games for them and that rushing juggernaut. I think that's somebody they should definitely look into if Sadiq Charles is going to be missing multiple weeks and possibly the season. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, I was definitely going to go Quentin Spain. I think he would be an easy plug and play and come in and probably start on this offensive line and probably contribute. But everyone's been clamoring for this, I feel like, since, if not this offseason, even going back to last season. It seems like he's unhappy again, even though he's on Twitter saying he didn't request a trade and blah, 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 blah. But we all know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
David Njoku, we're really lacking that tight end. I know Logan Thomas has kind of had flashes here and there, but I feel like Njoku is a definite upgrade. Obviously, they just brought in Austin Hooper in the offseason through free agency, and Njoku's not getting those targets anymore.
And they drafted Hunter Bryant, too.
Yeah,
Hunter Bryant's out playing
exactly.
Njoku.
Hunter Bryant's out playing him. He's not really getting any snaps right now or any playing time. So I feel like David Njoku come here would instantly give this team a spark. And look, Ron Rivera's talking about he wants to go all the way in and compete for this weak NFC East championship. A great safety valve at a tight end that's athletic and a great red zone target would definitely do that.
And isn't it crazy how this week could literally, if we win and some things go our way, we could be first place in the division. But if we lose and some things don't go our way, we could be projected to have the number 1 pick in the draft.
It's
that
insane.
Is crazy.
I still don't think we're going to have the first pick because the Jets are just like
Neither do I. The Jets are just that bad.
But we are shooting for a number 2 again this year, which is crazy to me.
Every team in the NFC East is.
Look, I was going to put some money in on the over and under was like 5.5 this offseason. I was like, 5.5? We're going to crush that. I'm just going to throw big money on that. Glad I didn't.
That was a good thing you didn't do that, Hall. Yeah. Now, Reed, you have some quotes for us from Coach. He spoke to reporters today. And so let's get some of those quotes from Ron because in particular, he talked about that cutoff point with Kyle Allen and Dwayne Haskins. We talked about with JP Finlay for a little bit, but I would love to hear from Coach's mouth.
Okay, hold on. Well, I got to find that exact quote now, Kyle. So
I'm sorry.
Take me a second.
Put all the pressure on you, Reed. You got to react now.
Yeah, no, and I do not see that quote on here right now, so that's fun. That's always a good way to start this one off. I did not see the quote on here.
But essentially what Coach had said, and JP had alluded to it earlier, was that he's going with his gut feeling with these moves, and when he was saying that, in his defense, when he was saying the other day that I have been consistent with my messaging, I haven't been confusing at all with his team. That's what he meant with the players, how he's talked to them. He told them every step of the way of what's happening. And I do agree with him there. I don't think that he's lying there. You haven't seen the kind of backstabbing like we've seen at Dallas this week of them coming out and saying that they've not been prepared by Mike McCarthy and stuff. We would be seeing that out of Ron Rivera if he was being confusing with them. But he's being straight up with them, and I really do appreciate that from him. And look, I'll give him benefit of the doubt. I felt like people were getting on Coach a little bit too much.
Right. And so now I did find some of the inconsistent quotes. Ron Rivera he admitted to it. He says it does look a little inconsistent, but he says it's him going by his gut. He says John Madden's advice really helped guide him to rely on his gut instincts. And that's really what he did. He said that. So he owned up to it. He said, look, it does look a little inconsistent, but, he's a very honest guy. Ron Rivera is not somebody who's going to beat around the bush. He's not going to bullshit you. He's somebody who's just very straightforward. And if he admitted, he's like, yeah, it sounded a little inconsistent. It did. I agree. And that's something you'd wish politicians would do.
Yeah, JP hit it on the head. Like you just said, Kyle, he was kind of pretty much saying, yeah, he might sound inconsistent to the media, but to the team, he's still saying the same things over every day. He's still preaching that consistency every day that he's been preaching since day one when he got hired. And you can hear from the players when they come out and talk to the media.
Right.
And they're still backing coach. They're still behind everything that he's saying. I think even Kyle Allen said that. Oh, actually, I forgot what he said, but paraphrasing it, he kind of said like, yeah, he tells us every day that we're going to come here to win, and he still has our back. We still have his back. Like I said, something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing is that the players still trust in him. I know the media, I know the fans, everybody wants to make a big deal about Ron Rivera and he's not doing his job and he needs blah, blah, blah. But the players really, really respect Ron and the players really trust Ron. And I know that everybody was pissed because we didn't win that game because we went for 2, but the players said that meant a lot to them. That he trusted them enough to go out there and win that game. And even though they didn't make it happen, like Ron said, you got to, in order to play to win, you got to learn how to win. So
yeah, I mean, look, this organization's been known for numerous leaks to the media, for all these 20 plus years.
Right.
So for nothing to be coming out, like you said, with the Cowboys, where they're kind of backstabbing the coaches, running the Jane Slater, nobody's running the JP Finlay, nobody's running the Michael Phillips and guys like that. So that's definitely a good sign. And I think that, like we said, he's preaching consistency and that kind of winning culture. He's instilling that into the players and into the locker room. So again, people in the media have said it. Graham Paulson said it 1,000 times. He doesn't give a damn what the people in the media think or the fans. So
that's the whole point. He doesn't care. When he answered that question in his defense, he wasn't even thinking about what he said to the media. He's thinking in his head what he's saying to his players. Like, no, I've been consistent throughout this whole thing. That's how much he doesn't care because he didn't even think about it in his defense. He's not even thinking about what he says to you guys because he doesn't care.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about Ron. You will 100% see Ron get combative with reporters. Like he will get into it with them, and he'll stand his ground, and he will be like, "Look, I see these guys every day in practice. I know what I'm doing. I'm standing by my decision. Back the fuck off. I don't care what you guys report." And it's so funny. I'm so happy to have a coach like that after having Jay.
Yeah. Now, Reed, is there another quote that stood out from you from Ron's presser today?
Yeah. Basically, about the trade deadline. Ron is somebody who always kind of seems to beat around the bush a little bit. Like he'll never show his hand, if you will, but he'll also kind of leave that. He will never say yes, but he won't say no. So when it was asked about the trade deadline, about deals, he said, "We will see. We'll get to that point when we get to that point." But the thing is that point is coming up pretty fast.
Yeah.
So we're gonna need to, if they're gonna do something, they gotta do it. So Ron to just say, "We'll see. We'll get to that point when we get there," I think is Ron. Maybe they're just taking a look at people and seeing what they can do.
Yeah,
right.
And he just doesn't want to tip his hand right now. Is essentially what he's doing. We might be trading. It might be. We'll talk about it when it gets there. But it's coming up quick. But we'll talk about it when it gets. Yeah. Which means that yes, they are working. They are looking. And if something happens, we'll talk about it.
And he said that he doesn't want to live in a what-if situation. He said if there's an option that interests the team, they'll discuss it. If not, it is what it is. They're not going to be like, "Oh, what if we go out there and get OBJ to play opposite McLaurin?" You know, I don't know. But then again, no coach would be like, "Yeah, we're working the trade deadline hard right now. We're trying to trade for AJ Green. We got a few offers on the table." So,
I mean, he wouldn't be doing his job as a head coach or the head of football operations, whatever you want to call him. He's working with Kyle Smith, obviously. But he wouldn't be doing his due diligence as the coach and football person of the team if he wasn't behind the scenes working the phones and taking calls, putting calls out, putting feelers out there. So do I think we're going to acquire somebody? I'd give it probably like a 20% chance. I would definitely, depending on how this weekend turns out, I think we'll determine.
Trades are rare in football.
Exactly. Right. But I do think if we win this, if somehow the Giants beat the Eagles tonight and we come out and win on Sunday, and we're sitting at first place in the division, and it's for the taking because, again, these next couple of games are 50-50 throw toss-up games as far as who can win them. Could he be active on the trades? I mean, I think he would be more complied to be active as far as making a trade as we're sitting first place come Monday morning.
I'm sorry. No, you're good. One quote that from me that I saw from Ron today, somebody had asked him, how he's been voicing with the players, like about playing for the playoffs versus, just chilling out and saying, like, this season is what it is. We're just playing to get with this evaluation year. And he said the words, "I believe," and that struck a chord with me because because Morgan Moses talked about, I think last week or a week before, when he talked to reporters, that he wants to win. And Jonathan Allen, Jerron Payne, those guys want to win. And if coach is preaching that to them right now, I absolutely love it because I'm in that boat too. I don't understand why we can't fight to win games and still be rebuilding at the same time. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, no, 100%, and that's the thing. That's why people criticizing Ron for going for two. I know we're past that, but for going for two on that play, it's just like, guys, got to understand. Ron Rivera is a coach. He's a competitor. This guy wants to win. Yes, we are not the most talented football team. Yes, we are probably going to lose a lot more games than we win. But he's going to try to win every game. He's going to do what he can, and he's going to make the decisions that he feels is best for the team.
Yeah. Sorry, and the worst thing for me after that game, because I felt encouraged. When I watched that fourth quarter, I have a checklist in my head on at every play, how the next play could impact the rest of the game to get the Washington football team back in it. That's how my thought process goes when I'm watching these Washington football games. And at the end of the third quarter, I'm thinking, man, they just liquefied the entire third quarter. They just took all the time possession. They have to go down the field and score. The defense has to be able to stop and get off the field on third down, and then the team needs to go down and score again. And that's what they did. And I was really encouraged with what they did. They just came up short. And it was so rough after that game to go on social media and see the kind of things that were being said. I know what Ron's saying, because from a team aspect, he's saying we're trying to win as a group. And I felt he's right because I saw the wheels turning. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of that game, you saw that they were playing winning football together.
Starting to click a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
And even Kyle Allen said that. Kyle Allen said that when he fumbled the ball and he went off the field, all he was thinking was, damn, that was a stupid play. But automatically it was, all right, well, I'm going to get the ball back and we're going to go out there and make something happen. So that's the kind of mentality that you like to see. And I just like that. I kind of like how they're following Ron's lead with this. I think that the guys still believe just like Ron.
Yeah. Now, Jason Wright was on with, I believe, ABC7 the other day, and he took Washington by storm by saying the Washington football team name could stick around for the entire year next year. Hall, what's your reaction to that statement?
At first, I was kind of like, really? Like, we're going to deal with this next year? I thought we were going to deal with this just 1 year and then go into next year and have a new name, new uniforms, new brand, new era of Washington football. But, I mean, look, I'd rather them take their time and do it right as opposed to just rush it, and then something stupid comes of it, and then I'm just even more mad. Like, really, this is what it's come to? But I will say this, though. Chris Cooley, I forget on what podcast he was on.
Kevin Sheehan. He was on 980, yeah.
Where he said that he heard from somebody that either used to work for the organization or he trusts that's outside of the organization.
Yes, somebody that doesn't work inside the building, but he trusts.
And he said that they already have a name picked, and it's just a matter of them actually like putting it out there and all that.
Clearing waivers, getting rights and stuff.
Exactly. So, I mean, look, I'm one of them people where obviously I want to see a team with a name and a logo and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, I just want to see some wins. If we're winning football games, I don't care what the team is called. Just keep the colors and win some games.
What about you, Reed? What's your reaction to Jason Wright saying that the Washington football team name could stick around for another season?
I was surprised that a lot of people were super shocked by this. This was said, I believe, by Julie Donaldson in early to mid-August that it could take 2 years. Apparently, they were saying that next year we could be the Washington football team as well, and that they were really going to take their time, do their due diligence. They were going to listen to the fans. They were going to get input. There was a bunch of hurdles to clear. There was all sorts of stuff. There's new uniforms, whatever. So it was going to take some time. So I kind of expected it. I'm okay with them doing Washington football team through 2021 or until 2022. But after that, you got to think of a name, because I'm not okay. As much as cool as it is for like a season or two, like you can't just be like, oh, I'm a fan of the football team. Well, which one? The Washington football team. The football team. The only one. Like, I don't know, it's just
we got all these Ohio State players. You might as well Washington football team.
I will say though, I will always be okay with them having a throwback with only the numbers on the helmet, because I love the way that
they should keep that as like a throwback helmet or something like that, alternate helmet.
I will say, I said this last night. I was on with the Washington Brawl podcast with Parker Hamlet and Chris Bryant, and I said it on there because they asked me the same question, and I'll respond the same exact way I did on there. I believe Jason Wright is incredibly intelligent. He's very good in marketing and business, and he understands that this fan base hates this name. They don't want to see it anymore. And so what better way to get people looking forward to a new name than getting people pissed off and ruffling the feathers a little bit? I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think Chris Cooley is correct. I think they know their name, and I just have a because I saw John Kime put out this tweet about 2 or 3 months ago. I never told you guys about this, but he put out a tweet and said something like, the Red Wolves things was a joke at first, but now it's getting kind of ridiculous. And I was kind of put off by like, what do you mean? And what if they picked a name, but they just wanted to have fun with people and had all these anonymous accounts running around with Red Wolves just to have fun with it because they already had the name picked, which is what Chris Cooley is saying. If they had it picked in the preseason, that wouldn't surprise me at all because the Red Wolves thing it's gone. You don't see it anymore. It was literally dominating our timelines throughout the summer. Now all of a sudden it's gone. You can't even find one.
That's true. Yeah. That is true.
So some people will still have their backgrounds or their Twitter profile pictures for Red Wolves, but other than that, nobody's talking about it whatsoever. Thank God.
Yeah,
it finally stopped. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the last time I will talk about that name on here. I hate that name. I don't ever want to see that ever again.
But and then watch that be our name.
I know, right?
But in all honesty, though, I just don't feel like they can continue going down this road for another season. The generic looking of it, they can't. I said this last time on Washington Brawl. They don't even have a hashtag. Like it took them a long time to figure out a hashtag for this. I have a feeling that they cannot continue with this. They know it's bland, and next year, I feel like, is going to be the year that they unravel because I feel like this generic name you can get away with during this COVID year because everyone's viewing this year as a kind of a special, random kind of year. It's not your normal type of preseason buildup. Everyone thought that the NFL was not even going to be able to play this year. And so I feel like you can get away with it now. Next year, I don't think so. I think you're going to have to roll something out by draft time, and then let's get the tires turning. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
All right, there we are. All right, so now, guys, it's Dallas week, baby. We have to talk about this game. One in particular, on Twitter, I saw a bunch of people talking about this. I heard it on 106.7. It was a hot topic. Is the rivalry between the Washington football team and the Dallas Cowboys dead, Hall?
I wouldn't say it's dead per se because obviously like it's still the rivalry's still there. People still get hype. I mean, if you go to the games and the tailgates and stuff like that, the rivalry is definitely still there. I just think that they're not our biggest rival anymore. I think the Eagles have jumped them as our number one rival. Our fan bases literally hate each other. I mean, most people hate Philly fans anyway. Yeah. But I think it's like a special just kind of hate when it comes to like Washington fans. They come to our stadium every year and it's like they just talk so much like crap.
Well, hold on. Let's not think about this from the fan aspect. Let's think about this from the player and coach aspect. Like,
oh, well, in that case, no, it's not the rivalry. I don't think, in my opinion, is like that tough as it is. Like that's still like, as big as it was because, well, for one, they've been beating us the past couple of years pretty handily. And to be a rivalry, you got to, go back and forth. Mm-hmm. But second, I mean, this is Mike McCarthy's first year. This is Ron's first year. It's pretty much some carryover from last year with the players. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I just think that the Eagles have overjumped them as the number one, rivalry. Just because we've had closer games with the Eagles in the past. I feel like it's kind of gone back and forth with us and the Eagles these past couple of years as opposed to, like, Dallas has kind of been more one-sided.
Now, what about you, Reed? Do you view this as still a rivalry from the Washington football team aspect?
Yeah, it's definitely not as big of a rivalry as it used to be. Like Dallas week used to be a thing, like a legit thing all week. And as soon as you said it was Dallas week, I was like, oh shit, that's right, it is Dallas week. I forgot that was the thing. But yeah, even for the players, I mean, of course, there's going to be players that are going to get up for this game. I mean, John Allen, Daron Payne, those guys know how important this is. But it's just with the teams being so bad and Dallas kind of having our number over the last 2 years, it's kind of lost some of its glamour. And then with, like Hall said, with the two new head coaches, it might take a little bit. But all it's going to take is one team to start winning again. And then once that happens, it's going to be, all right, we got to beat the Cowboys. All right, the Cowboys got to beat the Washington football team. So it'll take a little bit, but once the team starts winning, it'll be right back. I still think that they're always going to be our biggest rival, and I think that the players are going to get up for this game, and I think that they're pumped for it.
I think the old rivalry is definitely not what it used to be, but I think there's a new one. For years, everyone's talked about the weapons, the running game for the Dallas team, and Ezekiel Elliott, how good he is. I feel like Jonathan Allen and them take that with a pride whenever they play Zeke. They were like, we're going to shut this. He's not going to average 5 yards per carry on us. And I could see that becoming a thing, but it's hard without Dak because this isn't the same team.
Right.
but I feel like this could be something generating towards the future, like in a new rivalry where, everyone's talking about how talented that offense is and how talented Dallas is, and everyone just throws Washington at the back of every list. I feel like that rivalry could generate into everyone keeps talking about them, they won't talk about us. We're gonna kick your ass, so they start doing that, and I feel like it could be one of those rivalries.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so
It's
now
gonna take some time. Got to get some more talent on our side. At
Yeah.
least.
Right.
Now.
It's weird too, looking at, like, if you were to have told us in the beginning of the season that the matchup at quarterback was going to be Andy Dalton versus Kyle Allen, or if you were to tell me that back in March for the first Cowboys game, I'd be like, what the fuck? What?
Yeah. Also,
Why?
I feel like obviously, like you said, Dak's injured, so it's kind of like lost the kind of
Right.
shine that it would have. But I feel like also if we thought that Dwayne was going to play like we thought he was going to play coming into the season, that I think this rivalry would have been a lot more hype because it would have
Definitely.
been pretty good quarterback play and
Right.
pretty good teams coming into it, a high-powered offense versus a pretty
would've-
stout defense,
Yep.
something like that. So
It
that
would've
definitely
been-
has like taken some of the
Right.
shine off of it. I feel
It
like
would have been our young hot quarterback going up against Dak Prescott, who's now establised.
Exactly.
It totally would have had a
Exactly.
different feel. But now Kyle Allen versus Andy Dalton just doesn't do it for a lot of people.
It doesn't move the needle at all. Does it? So let's talk about the game this Sunday. And I talked about it with JP Finlay earlier. After that game on Monday night, my mood changed. I definitely gained some confidence thinking that this Washington team can play and keep up with Dallas. And I felt that their outcomes against the same team in Arizona were very, very similar. And the Washington football team kind of shot themselves in the foot in that game with special teams turnovers and stuff. So, look, I think that they can actually do it. So let's talk about this game. What facet of the game, if you could say one place in particular that the Washington football team would have to do well at in order for them to win, what would it be, Reed?
I'm going to say getting after the quarterback because, Dallas, their offensive line is in shambles. Remember that nice, strong Dallas offensive line that was easily the best in the league with Tyron Smith and Nick Martin and Travis Frederick? Those guys are all gone right now. It's a backup offensive line. And you can make Andy Dalton, with our strength being our defensive line, you can get to Andy Dalton, you can pressure him. They have fantastic wide receivers, the best wide receiver trio in the NFL. So you got to stop that. You got to get to Andy Dalton, make him make some mistakes, make him make some rush throws, and then that'll make your secondary's job easier. So I really think on defense, they're gonna have to get after the quarterback. On offense, we're gonna need to start running the ball. We haven't been running the ball well, and a lot of that's been because we've been behind early. I completely understand that, but they got to do something to get going, and they got to get going early.
Yep, mine is running the football, just like you just said. The talent, because there is talent on that offense. There is no disputing it, obviously. The Washington football team did a good job last week of keeping the Giants offense off the field. They have to continue that this weekend against the Cowboys. They have to run the ball well, swallow up that time of possession, keep Andy Dalton and those wide receivers on the sideline. So that way the defense is fresh in the fourth quarter like they were last week. They can get off the field and give the offense a chance to score points. I think rushing the football is by far one of the most important aspects for them. What about you, Hall?
Yeah, definitely. I was going to go with either of the two of those, but I will go with Scott Turner being more creative with the offense this week.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to have to use Antonio Gibson, get him going in the run game, him and McKissick as a dynamic duo. Definitely going to have to use him out in the passing game. Like we just mentioned with JP Finlay earlier, the fan base has been saying this for a couple weeks now too. Put Gibson out in the slot, put him out wide, let him run some fly routes, some deep posts, let him run some seam routes from the slot. I mean, like JP said, use them out the backfield, like run a lot of wheel routes, a lot of out routes, a lot of flat routes, stuff like that. So definitely get creative with the offense. And I would definitely say we have to go early and often and feed Terry McLaurin. I mean, with Dallas's defense being so bad, how did Arizona beat them? By getting the ball in their playmakers' hands. And I feel like with our best playmaker being Terry McLaurin, he's going to have one of those 8, 9, 10 catch days for over 100 yards and maybe a touchdown or two to keep us in that game.
Yeah. Didn't Arizona complete only one pass in the second half?
Yeah, I think Kyler only completed like 9 total the whole game.
Yeah, he had like a bad completion percentage, but it didn't matter because they were doing whatever they wanted when they completed the ball, and they were running the ball down their throat.
Yeah. That was so ridiculous. That was a crazy game. Now, if you could pick one player from each side of the football, baller predictions against the Cowboys, what player would that be, Reed?
That's pick one from each team.
No, one each side of the football for the Washington football team.
Okay, I'm gonna go with our boy Kendall Fuller. I think Kendall Fuller is gonna have another very good game. Look, Dallas is gonna want to throw the ball to their three weapons, and like I said, as long as our defensive line can get after Andy Dalton, Kendall Fuller's been taking his opportunities, and he's been picking off the football. He has 4 already this year. He's tied for the lead in the NFL. I think he's going to have a big day. And then on offense, obviously, I mean, I got to go with the boy right here, Terry McLaurin. Like Hall said, I think they're going to feed him the ball early and often. He's our best offensive weapon. He's really the only offensive weapon established at this point. So they got to get him the ball. Their cornerbacks are a little bit weak. I know Trayvon Diggs had a decent week, some people would say, but you can easily take advantage of him. And their secondary is nothing to be scared of. Neither is their defense. So,
Yeah, my bad. Defense, I'll go Chase Young. I think that this is going to be Chase Young's. I knew you were going to say that's why I want to go first. I think this is going to be Chase Young's.
I knew you guys
party.
wanted to say Chase Young. I wanted to. That's why I said
Yeah,
Fuller.
I think
I'll
he
leave it
has
for them.
another multiple sack game. I think he's going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, some QB hits, some tackles for losses. Obviously, he's already been real stout in the run game. And yeah, on offense, I'll go J.D. McKissick just because I think, like I said in the last question, I think Gibson and McKissick with the dynamic duo in the run game need to get going often and early. And I would like to see McKissick used in the pass game a little bit more than he's been used a lot lately. But I would like to see him like a little bit more downfield passes as like those wheel routes and those sluggos and those seam routes and stuff like that. So yeah, offense McKissick, defense Chase.
Yeah, and you stole Chase from me. You just had to go and do it, so I'll flip to the other side. And let's talk about offense first. I think Logan Thomas is going to have a big game this weekend. Serge, our good buddy, the Washington football team photographer, talked about in the film that he watched, Logan Thomas was wide open a lot in that game, and he just was not seen. I think that they're going to make sure to be able to use him this week in finding the holes in the zone against this 4-3 defense at Dallas Cowboys. Leighton Vander Esch, they're getting him back from injury, so he's going to show a little bit of rust with Jalen Smith. And then they have Joe Thomas playing at middle linebacker there with a 46.5 grade from Pro Football Focus. Now, defensively, I'll say Montez Sweat. And the reason why I say that is because Brandon Knight, I'm pretty sure he's not going to be playing in this game at left tackle. It's Greg Sinet, I'm pretty sure. 0 games started. 0. I think Montez Sweat could eat in this game. This offensive line for Dallas is really beat up. They got 2 rookies starting and 2 guys that I actually did film breakdowns on. Terrence Steele at right tackle and then Tyler Biadasz, the center from Arkansas. These guys are not barn burners. I'm going to tell you that right now. Terrence Steele is very raw, and that's why I feel like I agree with you, Hall, that Chase Young is going to have a day. I think Montez Sweat's right there. I think Montez Sweat has been consistent in his play and getting out to the quarterback, and this defense is going to need it. I think Montez Sweat is the baller of the defense. Now, let's move on to our bet. All right, we have a new segment, and Reed wants me to explain this because he feels like everyone else is not going to get it, which I'm sure you're not. But
it went right over my head.
Right, this is the WaterGate segment, and what this entails is that there is a Dallas player that you are so concerned about that you feel like the Washington football team should be spying on them and looking at them at length to find out what they're going to be doing because they are that much of a weapon. So, what player would that be, Reed?
I'm going to go with the new kid. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb is a fantastic wide receiver. Look, I know obviously Amari Cooper is who he is when he wants to be. I know Michael Gallup is a fantastic wide receiver. And I know Zeke is one of the better running backs in the NFL. Zeke has had some issues as of late, however. But CeeDee Lamb still scares me, man. We are a little bit banged up. I know Ronald Darby had some issues. Jimmy Moreland will give up some big plays every once in a while. And it's going to be interesting to see who we match up on with our cornerbacks against their receivers. CeeDee Lamb, I could see him having a pretty good game, even though our pass defense has been pretty good.
Yeah, that's a really good one because CeeDee Lamb right now actually has a fantastic grade. I think a 70 grade from Pro Football Focus. He has done incredibly well. But my guy that they have to really make sure and watch out for, DeMarcus Lawrence. We've seen in previous weeks that the pass rushers have been able to get to Kyle Allen. So if I'm the Washington football team, they have to be able to stifle and look and find the weakness of DeMarcus Lawrence to make sure that he is not impacting every single play, because we have seen with this offensive line, it can happen in the second half. They have to make sure it doesn't happen. Who is your WaterGate player there, Hall?
I'm going to go with Michael Gallup. This defense is known to give up huge plays down the field. We lead the league in 40-plus yard plays given up, and Michael Gallup specializes in 40-plus yards, 40-plus yard plays. And he's a deep threat. He's a huge catch guy, 50-50 ball guy. I mean, it seems like every time you look up in at least one game per week, the dude's making some crazy catch downfield for like a touchdown or a first down or getting a crucial pass interference call to move the ball down the field. So I said it against the Rams, and it happened. Robert Woods would have had 2 huge touchdowns if he did not drop the one pass. But we gave up a big play to Robert Woods, and if we give up a big play to Michael Gallup, it's not going to be looking good for this defense.
And Michael Gallup, it's so funny. It's so weird how he's the forgotten one of that trio sometimes, like to your average fan. Like, he's so good. Like, he's so good. He's a 1,000-yard wide receiver. He's really got it all in terms of physicality and athleticism. And you're right, he's always making plays, but everybody always wants to focus on Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. And Michael Gallup is right there with them. He's on the same level. He's a fantastic player.
I use Michael Gallup in a lot of FanDuel lineups most weeks, and he comes out positive for me every week. It's just, like you say, he's one of those players that doesn't get talked about because he has such other talented and superstar type receivers around him.
Big names.
Right. Yeah. So before we get into the actual score predictions for Dallas game, bold predictions. Do you guys have any? We'll start with you, Reed.
I'm going to say Terry is going to go over 150 receiving yards. I think they're going to feed, like I said, I think they're going to feed Terry early and often. Terry's went over 120 yards a couple times this year, a few times maybe. And I really think against this defense and against the secondary, force the ball to Terry. I think Terry's going to have a big game, and I think he might have multiple touchdowns as well.
All right, what about you, Hall?
My big prediction is I think our season total high for offensive yards, I think, is like 342. We will go for a whopping close to 400 yards. I'm not going to go 400 yards, but I think we're going to get close to 400 yards. I think Kyle Allen has a day. I think that, like you just said, I think Terry McLaurin has a huge day with his passing game. He might be the only one that has a huge day in the passing game. But I do think that they're going to go to Terry early and often. They're going to use the backs in the passing game. And I think Kyle Allen against this putrid defense will have over 250 passing, which means we'll go for $150 in rushing.
That's a bold prediction. Very much so, friend. Now, my bold prediction is Washington football team is going to get back on track with the sacks. I think that they're going to have 5 sacks in this game at least. They should be able to get after the passer. They have to look good in this game. If this defensive line cannot get after Andy Dalton and pressure him, there are problems. JP Finlay alluded to it earlier. He's absolutely right. They have to be able to pressure the quarterback. And that's what I'm going with for the bold prediction. 5 sacks on the day, at least, for the Washington football team. Now, if you could say straight up, who's going to have a better game on Sunday, Kyle Allen or Andy Dalton? Hall?
Only because Andy Dalton has the better weapons. I do think he'll be under pressure a lot, but I just think that it's going to be one of those kind of shootout games because these three receivers for the Cowboys are elite. So I'll go – actually, you know what? I'm lying. I'll switch it up. He does have better weapons, but I just said that he's going to be under pressure a lot. I'll go Kyle Allen because I think he'll go over 250 passing yards. So Kyle Allen.
Yeah, Andy Dalton looked putrid on Monday Night Football. I know that he's still a very talented or a decent quarterback. He's probably the best backup quarterback in the NFL. But maybe it'll take him a little bit to get in sync with these guys. But this is tough because I want to say Kyle Allen, but at the same time, I could just see this being the game where Andy Dalton all of a sudden looks like Andy Dalton from 2013. He's putting up 350 yards or something on us. But
yep.
But I'm going to go Kyle Allen too. As weird as that is to say, but I do think that Kyle Allen is going to throw one more interception than Andy Dalton. I think Kyle Allen will throw 2, Andy Dalton will throw 1, but Kyle Allen will still have a couple more touchdowns or 1 more touchdown and more yards.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I have to agree. I'm sorry, I'm not going to play devil's advocate. I just don't believe it. Not for Dallas week, baby. I'm not going to do that. It's Kyle Allen. This defense ranking the worst in the league in scoring allowed, averaging 36 points per game. They're allowing to offenses. I think Kyle Allen's going to have a good day. I think this coaching staff, they have motivation to want to put up points here. I think they want to be able to generate some momentum going down the stretch into the bye week to build confidence with the team. This is the game that they're going to have to attack downfield. And honestly, what do you have to lose at this point? Attack early, often, and keep that consistent throughout the game, because we've seen Dallas can't defend it. They have been giving up a lot of yardage. This has to be the week to do it, and I think they will. So I think Kyle Allen will be the better quarterback on Sunday. Now, let's finish off this episode, baby. Will the Washington football team beat the Dallas Cowboys? What's your score predictions, Hall?
Man, I've been literally this whole past minute going back and forth in my head. Am I gonna pick him? Am I not gonna pick him? Am I gonna pick him? Because every time I pick him, they lose. So I'm thinking man, should I not pick him because maybe they'll get a win? But I do think that because I just said Kyle Allen will have a little bit better of a day than Andy Dalton. And most games against Ezekiel Elliott, his defense has done fairly well. They've held him in check for the most part. I do think it's going to be a kind of a shootout type, heavy offensive type game just because we give up big plays and their defense is so bad. So I'll go Washington with the nail-biter win, 28-27.
Ooh,
Damn.
that's a close game, and I could definitely see that happening. I would wish that it wouldn't be as stressful and it would cause me a lot of anxiety. But what about you, Reed? What's your score prediction?
I hate to do this, but I'm going to pick Dallas to win this game.
Oh,
I
know.
don't blame
No,
you.
look,
I don't blame you.
that man.
Look, the only reason that I'm doing it is because look at how we played against the Giants.
Yeah.
I know we're going to come out anytime we're supposed to do something and we're supposed to do it really well, we don't. And I just want to switch things up maybe, maybe since I literally pick us every week except for the Ravens week, maybe I'll pick us to, like Hall said, maybe I'll pick us to lose and we'll win. So that's my rationale.
I think that this is a win for the Washington football team. I have them winning 30-17. And there's one reason for that, and the state of each team. Dallas, I thought when they lost Dak, you could feel the energy kind of leaving them a little bit. They didn't have the same fire and fight. They know they're out of it. They're not the same team. They know their ceiling, essentially. And then you hear the leaks about Mike McCarthy. And I said this last night on Washington Brawl. When you're playing football and you're on the field, when you see the other team yelling at one another, that's when you put your foot on the gas pedal. That's when you start going, because they're at their weakest when they're yelling at each other. The best teams stick together. And that's what the Washington football team is. Yes, they're going through a hard stretch, but you don't see the mutiny happening. You seeing them buy into the system. I was very encouraged with the way they played in that fourth quarter. That's why I'm giving them the edge over the Cowboys. The Cowboys are essentially self-destructing 6 games into the season just because they lost Dak. Now they could possibly be firing their head coach. First year into a 5-year deal halfway through the season.
Overrated.
Yeah, so for that reason, I believe the Washington football team will win on top of the offensive line being as bad as it is. I think the Washington football team will be able to get out there after Andy Dalton and control this game 30-17.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice win.
Yeah,
Nice.
I hope so.
Pretty convincing win, actually.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would be. That's what they need. All right,
And the exact opposite. I'm sorry, Kyle. One thing is, it seems like Dallas does not believe in their coach at all, where it seems like Washington is fully bought into their head coach.
Yeah,
And I feel
that's
that could be a
basically
huge
my point.
difference.
Right.
Yeah, that could be such a huge difference right there.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
I know.
I'm Hall.
And I used to be JP Finlay, but right now I'm Mike Reed.
Yes, and special thanks to JP Finlay for again coming on and being able to give us some knowledge about the Washington football team. Looking ahead, going against the Dallas Cowboys. It's Dallas week, everybody. We really appreciate you guys coming by. Please go like and share us on Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Google Pods, and then YouTube as well. You can find us. We love you guys. Washington football team, let's get a W this weekend, all right? Washington football. Woo!